we talk about the current state of the project. We talk about topics that are of interest to the Cardea community. Today's meeting will be focused around some more detailed review of the agents so that the people who are new can come up to speed on the project. And then next week's discussion will be focused on schemas and efforts to make those more interoperable. We'll have a presentation next week from the Trust over IP Good Health Pass initiative. Paul Knowles will be presenting on that. Keela will be presenting the current status of the schemas that we're currently using, and then we'll be discussing ways to possibly make Cardea more interoperable next week. So it's a project status and detailed topics of interest, and subsequently we'll probably dig into code a little bit more on the third meeting.
Okay, got just one more question and I'll shut up, Ken. Are your repos open yet, your code?
There's a number of repos involved, and I think we have the first two that are now open, and the other ones will be following. I think the third one is in progress right now. So do you have a link to those so we could have a look? So some of them are already available. We'll take a peek at some of those later on in the meeting. So we'll look at probably overview of the first two. Okay, thank you. Other introductions, anyone else?
Ken, this is Bill Hand with Lorca Identity. Looking forward to the conversations today, based out of Houston, Texas.
Thank you. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, my name is Lynn Bendixson from Indicio. This is my first time at the meeting. I was asked to help get some of the GitHub repo things started up in the background, so I thought I'd listen in today and see where we're at with that, and we need more help.
Thanks, Lynn. Welcome.
Hello, my name's Nathan from Kiva Microfunds, and I've been working on government ID cards and digital inclusion around the world lately, and so I'm interested in how Cardea could help advance that cause and help make digital identities accessible to more people.
Welcome, Nathan. Good to see your smiling face. Anyone else that would like to introduce themselves? We'll do an introduction segment each meeting so that new people have a chance to let others know who they are and what organizations they represent, and kind of your main goals for participation. If we did complete introductions every time, it would take up the entire meeting, but I'd like to just offer an opportunity at the beginning of each meeting for people who have not or are new and want to wish to, you don't have to, but wish to let others know who you are and your reasons for participating. That's helpful. Okay. So our main topic for today is a review of Cardea agents. There are 5 agents in the ecosystem. If we look at kind of a brief overview of what the agents look like, this is the limited ecosystem for Cardea at present. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, Ken. And just so everybody knows, I did start on the Google Doc, which I sent in the chat. I can send that again for anybody new. The 5:20 meeting is at the bottom for anybody who wants to take notes.
To help take notes. It's a community effort to take notes. It's a community effort all the way around. So there are 5 agents, main agents in the Cardea ecosystem. The Health Enterprise Agent, which is a cloud agent that allows for a health organization, hospital, lab, clinic, pharmacy, whoever is going to be issuing the credentials to participate. An HIE would be a government health organization. All of those would be represented by a health enterprise agent issuing credentials. There's a government agent that's represented in the ecosystem right now that verifies credentials presented to it and then issues trusted travelers. A mobile verifier agent and a mediator that is not part of the project, but we stand up one of these. This is hosted at Aries Akapai mediator. It's configured to make a fully functioning ecosystem, but it's not actually part of the Cardea project. And then a
Ken?
Holder mobile agent. Yes,
It's a little bit small on my screen. Can you make it a little bit bigger?
no,
Um,
I made another page. That didn't quite help, did it?
By
The
Control
plus
Plus.
The plus button didn't do what I thought it was going to do. There we go. How's that?
That's better. Yep.
Thanks, that's better.
Good point, Lynn. Thank you. So basically, we're going to have an introduction. I'm going to turn some time over to Mike, who is the lead developer on the Health Enterprise and Government Agents. And he's going to walk us through some detailed description and an overview, and I think a demo. Mike?
Alrighty. So first thing, we'll go with the demo that'll provide some excitement and some context for the discussion about the architecture and the pieces. Today's demo, we're going to be using the Aruba Digital Health app that was used for the trial in Aruba because we have the enterprise agent ready to go, but we haven't open sourced the holder yet, and so we need to use an existing holder. So we'll use the Aruba Digital Health app for the holder. We also have an Akapai mediator configured and the Cardea Health Enterprise Agent. And then in order to make the Aruba Digital Health app work, we also have to use the Aruba Government Enterprise Agent. All right, so to begin the demo.
So just to be clear, the code being contributed to Cardea does not have the proprietary pieces that are specific to CETA and Aruba in it. And apologies for sharing that without permission. So the code is shared to Cardea will have all of the proprietary bits removed. And that's why that particular repo has not been shared yet.
All right, so we'll move on in the process here then. So after the Happy Traveler card is issued or whatever, the user can go on to be verified at different locations. Or you could also take the test result credential to be verified at whatever location is doing verification. Some other interesting parts of the Cardea Health Enterprise Agent are a list of issued credentials. We have a refresh bug. So there we go. So here's a list. You can see that the COVID lab result that I just issued to myself and some details about the credential here. We also have some basic user management and role-based access control. And we have a settings panel where you can change the organization name and logo, some SMTP configurations for the emails that are sent to the users that manage the system, and colors for branding so you can match Cardea or your organization's colors. As far as architecture, the Cardea Health Enterprise Agent is built. Our demo instance is just hosted on an AWS instance. It's running Nginx. We have a Postgres database, although you could configure the system to potentially use other database systems. We have Akapai running on the server to act as the agent that does the interactions with the blockchain ledger and to issue the credentials. We have an API portion of the controller, which is written using Node and Express. And then we have the user interface, which is written using React.js. So the decisions for those were to choose familiar open source technologies when available. And we wrote everything for the new code and the controller and the UI in JavaScript from top to bottom to hopefully make it as easy to modify for as large an audience as possible.
Mike, can you bring up the repo?
Yeah, just a moment. So in the Cardea project, we have the 2 new repos. There's one for the controller or API and one for the user interface. And, you know, just a typical list of files and commits, or README and so on, with some instructions for how to get going.
Have you got a share screen?
Oh, all right, trying again. So here's the Cardea project and the list of repos. So the controller is basically the API. It sits between the Cardea agent and the user interface. And then the user interface written in React and the code that's there. We'd also, for our project so far, we've been using Docker. And so we have some Docker configuration files and containers for installing all of this onto one server at once. So you don't have to configure every agent manually every single time. So I don't know what our plans are for maybe sharing the configurations or not, but we'd be willing to help people get those set up as well. That's all I've prepared for the Health Enterprise Agent demo, so we could do questions if you'd like.
Are there questions for Mike?
I put a link in the chat for the Cardea project in GitHub.
So a quick note on the repos. The repo Linux Foundation has created a repo, and that's where this is currently housed. In transferring the repos, we lost the wiki pages that contained the meeting notes and the meeting recording. So we're going to have to try to figure out how to get those added back in. The repos representing a government agent will probably be the next set of repos that land, and they will look remarkably similar in terms of interacting with a Cardea agent and a separate UI also written in React to control a government or organizational type agent. So that will be coming as well. The idea was to base the technology off of the Aries community work so that we can leverage and take advantage of the interoperability and strong code base that is there. There's nothing that would prevent a different Aries compatible agent from issuing credentials, but the focus was on what would be the easiest path of integration for the healthcare community. Point-to-point integrations are being done by some other projects, but basing this on verifiable credentials isolates the integration path to the credential and eliminates a large cost factor in getting a system that is interoperable. Consumers of the credentials are also based on Aries, so that it's a flexible mechanism for businesses of any type or governments or whoever needs to verify those health status credentials to participate. I think we don't have any other questions on the enterprise issuer side, then we'll go on to another discussion topic. James, would you like to give a brief overview of the the mobile agents without a demo?
Sure, I'd be happy to jump into that. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So feel free to jump in with questions or clarifications at any point, and I'd be happy to answer, prepare a brief deck here to go through some of the elements of what make up the mobile apps. Looking at the tech stack, at the very top, we have the holder and the verifier. This is primarily defining the UI, UX, and the workflow, defining the path and interactions that are specific to Cardea. This relies on and utilizes Aries bifold to give the Aries mobile agent capabilities in React Native. And this is relying on Aries framework JavaScript to do the primary framework for the actual SSI agents and the DIDCOM services. And then going a bit further down, AFJ is utilizing the RNND SDK and the which wraps the Indy SDK. So this is how we're accessing the Indy for our core crypto and key management pieces and ledger interactions. So currently we're relying on Indy, but there's the capability for the extension for different credential formats in AFJ. So that's something that we want to work towards in the future. But this is the primary tech stack from top to bottom that the holder and verifier apps are utilizing.
So any improvements that come out of either the Aries framework JavaScript effort or the Aries bifold effort are not automatically, but with low effort incorporated into the Cardea solution.
It's one of the reasons we went with the open source solutions here, is to benefit from the community's collaborate rather than working separately, and trying to build efforts to make things move forward and also work in an interoperable way. I've highlighted a couple of features that are currently present within the Cardea applications. From top to bottom, one of the first things is doing a PIN authentication. So this gives us a place to do biometrics in the future. We have a registration process in which we collect necessary demographic information for labs and government for the processes and their needs. And then we've also done some passport OCR scanning pieces. I figured it would be good to touch on these things that we've done QR code scanning and QR code generation, credential issuance, and those workflows, the presentation workflows. And then I think of note is configurable user settings, consent settings. So allowing them the capability to auto share their trusted traveler, so their health status, depending on or to approve verifiers based off of machine readable governance. This is exciting because it gives the power to the user, but also doesn't overwhelm them with having to approve everything always. So then this is something that can be configurable from a governance perspective as well, of how much you want to be configurable by the end user. So,
requiring consent at every interaction would be the most privacy preserving method, but it might drive the users crazy in having to consent every single time. So the benefit of the configurable consent once to this type of interaction, as long as the verifier is on the approved list, is an attempt to make the consent be there but not overwhelming.
mm-hmm. And it is also tied, at least what we've configured is tied to a specific schema. So only a presentation that is of that type of credential could be auto-presented based off of the user giving their permission. So if it contains information that they haven't already given permission for, they will have to manually approve that. I think our work on machine readable governance is somewhat of an in-progress effort, but it has been quite exciting, giving us the capability to manage the schemas in use, the capability to list approved verifiers and approved issuers. You don't necessarily have to have approved verifiers, because this can be done in an ad hoc way, but it can help in the case of giving the end user greater confidence that they're sharing their information with a legitimate source. One of the things that we've done is being able to, utilizing machine readable governance, be able to give the end user verifiable contact information that's provided from the governance framework to allow them to know, to help prevent the man-in-the-middle attacks, of being able to have a verifier or an issuer say they're someone else who they really are not. And finally, defining the machine readable governance can define rules around the workflow processes. So what are the issuance requirements? What are verification requirements? This can define things like how recent does a COVID test have to be for it to be valid for to enter that location or to be issued a credential. So this is some really powerful stuff, and I think this is one of the to me, one of the key things that having further work on and collaboration and efforts put into it would be quite valuable. A brief note on some of the standards and testing. We've utilized the Aries agent test harness to do our testing to help ensure our interoperability capabilities with other Aries agents, to ensure this is not a closed system solution. This is meant to be a for broader adoption. And then we're currently targeting the Aries interop profile AIP 1.0. AIP 2.0 is where our target will shift to once that actually becomes finalized in the Aries working group. I won't go through all of the items on this this page, but I figured it was worthwhile mentioning some of the things that we've looked at and are working towards at the various different levels in the tech stack shared earlier. Happy to address any of these if there are particular questions around them. I think of particular note is that we are looking at at some point in the future, how do we support other credential formats so we aren't necessarily tied to Indy? So BPS Plus and others in the future. So
James, are these features separated into things that are specific to Cardea, or are some of these things that are specific to bifold or Aries Framework JavaScript?
More targeted towards bifold. However, some of these are things that are would be implemented in say Aries Framework JavaScript, however will end up benefiting the end the end developer, the end product, if you will. So Cardea, so for instance, any transport additions would occur at the Aries Framework JavaScript level. However, that would enable Cardea to, for instance, with Bluetooth, that would allow you to do offline verification in Cardea, but that would be implemented at the Aries Framework JavaScript level. Internationalization and localization support, that would happen at the bifold level, but that would end up having or at least partially at the bifold level, and that would impact Cardea in that way. So I can further clarify on other ones if that would be helpful, but that's hopefully an answer to that question.
So the main point is that by building on top of Aries Framework JavaScript and bifold, we gain benefit from that, but there's also some features that might be beneficial to Cardea to contribute back into those underlying frameworks in order to have the full functionality that we need, and to do it in an interoperable way rather than something that's unique to Cardea.
Exactly, especially in contributing back to the open source pieces. So like Aries Framework JavaScript, assuming that we stay interoperable there, that means that we would also implementations that work with Cardea, as you noted earlier, would be don't necessarily have to be built on Aries Framework JavaScript or Akapai as the issue, or if they're interoperable, they can utilize other frameworks or compatible solutions.
For now, the roadmap does not include anything beyond Akapai for the enterprise side, or bifold and Aries Framework JavaScript for the mobile side, but those are contributions that might make sense going forward, or if other interested user group members were interested in contributing, those are other pieces that could expand the reach of the ecosystem and perhaps offer coding frameworks that are more comfortable for integration with a particular vertical.
Definitely. I think it's valuable that it is, it gives us the option, even if it's not necessarily on the roadmap now, you know.
So is this your full roadmap, or is this just your favorite list of features subsetted from the roadmap?
Subset of favorite features. I think they're not necessarily listed in order, and I think our priorities will drive what order these things happen in. So for instance, right now we're pushing hard on the governance frameworks pieces right now, because that's quite powerful. So I don't necessarily think this is in order, but I think is some very interesting and notable things that we've identified that we want to pursue.
So are you thinking of doing all the work yourself?
Yeah. I'm going to be working 18 hours a day and going as fast as I can. No, I think we have multiple members from the Intisio team, but I also since we've going back to it again, since we're built here on an open source solution, we have the benefit of the open source community that goes alongside that. So especially on the Aries bifold and Aries framework JavaScript side of things, Animo Solutions and Timo and numerous other people are contributing and helping on these efforts, and likely also we'll be getting more and more developers to help contribute. So
this is a request for contribution and participation in forming a community. Please don't let James work himself to death doing this in a solo fashion. We're open to creating a community development effort and having other people participate in contributing code and becoming maintainers of the code as we move forward. We recognize that there are at least four angles to look at this from. One is the public health side of things, with issuers getting involved. They know their systems best, and they may offer the best integration path or the interfaces that are most comfortable for their use. Governments or other organizations that consume the credentials directly, employers, governments, whoever wants to participate there. The end user verifiers, the end businesses, or like CETA has organized some efforts around integration with the airline travel industry. There are other verticals that may benefit from a custom-built agent that represents their interests better, or end verifiers for businesses that are particular to a particular type of vertical, like retail or education, those types of things. Although there is a holder wallet here, a Cardea wallet, the principles that we've used and the protocols and technology that we've built should make it so that other wallets can participate in the ecosystem. Cardea won't be the only wallet in the world, and we want to make sure that others who have already developed wallets or are in the process of modifying wallets so that they can be compatible with Cardea, that we openly welcome those types of participation and contributions. When there are more parties involved, everyone benefits, and it reduces the cost for everyone and increases interoperability. So please join, don't be bashful. If you have questions, you can direct them to me or to Keela as kind of the co-chairs of the working group. But we want to involve you and have your active participation and code contribution and code use from the project. So don't, if you find something difficult to understand, or you want to have your favorite thing added to the James's current list here, this is representing for James the parts on the particularly on the mobile side. Mike has a similar list, although he did not share his laundry list of fun things that he would like to have. But those will we will be putting those into a roadmap document for each of the project, so that those can be openly considered and prioritized, so that we meet the community needs. And particularly if you have a strong interest in something and are willing to help code on that, jump in and offer. We are following a typical pull request type of mechanism. So issues will start to be, now that we have the repos in a Linux Foundation hosted repo, we can start to move our issues and pull requests into those repos and follow a fairly traditional mechanism for putting together. Anyone can post an issue. You have to follow the IPR for actually submitting a pull request and a designation of origin. Is it DCO?
DCO. I don't know what it stands for though.
Nathan, help me out here.
Which acronym?
DCO.
Developer Certificate of Origination, something like that, of origin.
Yeah, so the idea is, if you remember back when the Linux kernel had some trouble where they weren't sure where certain code came from, they implemented a bunch of processes to try to make sure that everything was contributed under the license and the person contributing it had the rights to do so. So that's what the DCO is for, is to make sure that we can trace where the code came from and make sure that it won't cause us any problems down the road.
Thank you. That was much more lucid than my explanation. We're looking for those contributions so that the community can grow and everyone can benefit. So thank you all for being willing to be here and show interest. I will thank you even more when your contributions start to roll in.
Hey, Ken,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned that there's a roadmap. Other projects have had a hype process or an RFC process. Will there be something like that set up for Cardea?
Haven't figured it out yet. Probably. The answer is probably. We'll try to. The RFC mechanism is a good mechanism for achieving consensus on a particular feature. The RFCs in the Aries community have been semi-successful at accomplishing that. I'll chat with a number of people who have good experience on how well that worked and see if we need to make any modifications or whether that should apply directly here. We'll bring that up for community consideration to adopt a more formalized mechanism. Right now, we'll have an informal list in one of the repos of what we're trying to accomplish, and then we'll try to formalize and make it a more consent gathering process. Right now, we're kind of transferring kind of ownership of this from private into a community-based approach, and so there will be some hiccups and bumps along in the road along the way, but we're trying to iron those out and make it so it's possible for people to get on board quickly and figure out a mechanism for reaching consent on where we should head. But as Nathan likes to say, code has a very big say in what happens in a community project. So if you're contributing code, if you don't like the code, you would have to refute that code with better code. So code speaks. So looking forward to contributions from everybody. We'll get our consent or consensus mechanism defined and add that to our main repo. So the repos will be organized under the Cardea project, and that's the name of the organization. And each repo for code will have a separate repo to containerize the code that's applicable to a specific agent or UI that's being organized. So the main stuff, the organizational stuff will be at the top level repo, and the details of code and configurations will be in smaller repos around each project, each piece of applicable deployable code. Other comments or questions in general?
Thanks, Ken and James. That was great. One comment I have is, looking at the roadmap list, is I think it will be good as people get more familiarity with the functionality and the modularity of your architecture. I think it would be good to understand what dependencies there are on the Hyperledger portions, right, basically on the Aries and Indy portions of upstream, if you will, the upstream capabilities, let's say, of Indy compared to the application level implementation with Cardea. So in an example being support for multiple encryption types, like ZKP, BBS plus support on Indy. So just so developers and people in general can understand what that separation is, so we can align and help you align with activities that need to happen upstream.
So John, you're suggesting that the documentation delineates some of the dependencies on the upstream code, and so even on the roadmap to identify upstream enhancements versus things that would happen inside of a Cardea repo itself.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because right for the delineation of efforts. Well,
Okay, good. Good suggestion. Thank you. Other comments? Are there any other items that we should be putting on our future agendas? So next week's topic will be schemas with Keela presenting on the current schemas inside of Cardea, and Paul Knowles presenting from Good Health Pass at TUIP on their current schema efforts. Are there other topics that deserve a meeting or two that you would like to see presented?
Hi, Ken. It's Lucy here. I have a question. So it seems like you guys are kind of having conversation with Good Health Pass Collaborative. Have you looked into the recommendations or suggestions and see how how the indicial kind of how the Cardea's kind of Cardea stack is kind of compared to the standards, what like the recommendations they're making?
We have not done a full evaluation of that. I think that many of the principles are similar, so I don't know it will be, I don't expect it to be too far off, but I think that's worthy of comparison there as well.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? If not, I think that we can close this meeting and look forward to working with people during the week and then meeting again for our discussion on schemas a week from today. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.